Thank you. Not long ago, I was doing a seminar for 110 sales managers who supervised more than 1,000 salespeople doing millions of dollars worth of business per month and hundreds of millions of dollars worth of business per year. And I gave them this exercise. I said, I want you to take a moment and think of your very best salesperson. I want you to get a mental picture of the top performer in your office. And then I'll describe him or her to you. And they laugh. Oh, sure, you can't do that. You don't know who they are. I said, now here they are. Here are the characteristics of your top person. And I went down and I gave them about 7 characteristics, one after another. Well, the first characteristic, people said, no, yeah. Second characteristic, yeah. Third characteristic, uh-huh. Fourth characteristic, yeah. Fifth characteristic, they were writing out 6. And then at the at the break, they came up and said, how do you know my top salesperson? I said, because they're all the same. All top salespeople are the same. I worked with top salespeople for 25 years. I've worked in rooms where every single salesperson on straight commission was making more than $250,000 a year, and most of them were making more than $1 million a year on straight commission. And I know that if you talk to them for any period of time, you find they have the same qualities and characteristics in common. Well, you are also top salespeople. You are members of what is called the top 10%. You're members of the elite, or what was once called the talented 10th. And you're members of the talented 10th because of what you do. Not because of what you say or wish or hope or intend, because of what you do. And let me tell you the 3 reasons why, statistically speaking, you're in the top 10%. The first reason, of course, is that only the top 10% of salespeople watch videos like this or listen to audio tapes in their car. They realize that they have to be continually upgrading their skills. Only the top 10% of salespeople attend training courses and seminars. They realize that if they're not moving ahead, they're moving backwards. Only the top 10%, statistically speaking, read. That 80-90% of all the self-help books and professional and personal development books in America are read by probably about 10% of the people. Last year in America, according to the statistics, 80% of American families did not buy or read a single book. And yet we're in the information age. We're in the knowledge age. We're in the age where, as if we're not moving ahead rapidly in terms of knowledge, we're actually falling back. And you're in the top 10%, because only the top 10% do these things. And why do I know that? It's because you're here. If the very fact that you're here means you're in the top 10%, at least in your thinking. You may not be there in your income yet, but you will be soon enough. As they say in high jumping, first you throw your heart over the bar, and then your body will follow. First of all, you decide where you want to be in your mind by the things that you do every day, and sooner or later your results will follow. I've been studying top salespeople for years, and I think that the 80-20 rule applies to salespeople in one specific area. Basically what it means is that 80% of sales success is psychological. 20% of sales success is technical. 80% of sales success is the attitude, the personality, the temperament, and the self-image, the way the person sees themselves and thinks about themselves. 20% is technical. It's product knowledge, it's particular sales skills, and so on. Unfortunately, most companies do only technical training, if they do any training at all. 70% of companies do no sales training of any kind. They give people a couple of brochures and a couple of business cards, and they send them out and they say, good luck. That's sales training for them. But with the psychological part, we know that the most important law that affects salespeople, or anybody for that matter, was discovered more than 3,000 years before Christ. It's called the law of correspondence. And the law of correspondence simply says that as within, so without. It says that your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. It says that everywhere you go, there you are. Is that everywhere you go, it's almost like you're in a 360-degree mirror. Everywhere you look, there you are. Your relationships, your health, your income, your attitude, your personality, everything on the outside is determined by what's going on the inside. Now, this is a powerful law, and it's very important because of this. If you want to change any part of your life, you start by changing the way you think about yourself on the inside. From the time immemorial, going back to Socrates and Plato and Aristotle, the greatest philosophers of all time have concluded that as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Is that your life is what your thoughts make it. Is that you become what you think about most of the time. So what we have found with top salespeople, and millions of dollars and thousands of hours have been spent researching and interviewing and analyzing and surveying top salespeople. And you know what we find? We find that top salespeople have certain qualities and characteristics that are the same. And you can take one of these people from one side of the country and put them into another side of the country, and they'll get the same top sales results. You can change industries, change territories, change products and services, and change economies. And those top salespeople are like balls. You throw them down, and they'll bounce right back up into the top 10% of their field. So what we've done and what I've done over the years is I've interviewed salespeople and I've read the interviews and the studies of salespeople, and I found that there are 3 critical self-image differences that the top 10% have. And by the law of cause and effect, which is most remarkable, which says that for every effect there's a cause, and that if you institute the same causes as other successful people, you get the same results. By the law of cause and effect, if you think the same way that top salespeople think, you get the same results the top salespeople get. It's not a miraculous thing. So we know this, that thoughts are causes and conditions are effects. If you change your thinking about yourself and about what you're doing, you actually change your results in that area. So what I've done is I've spent 25 years researching this, and I have trained now probably more than 1 million salespeople, and I've worked with salespeople, including some of the people here, whose sales have gone up dramatically as a result of these self-image changes. There are 3 critical self-images that top salespeople have, and I'll explain them to you in order. Self-image number 1 is that they see themselves as consultants, not salespeople. Remember, the way you see yourself determines how you think, how you walk, how you talk, how you act, how you perform, how you behave, and all excellent people see themselves as excellent people. All happy people see themselves as happy people. Even lucky people think of themselves as lucky people, and surprise, surprise, so they are. Top salespeople see themselves as consultants, not salespeople. Let me ask you a question. Do customers like salespeople? No. Why? Because salespeople represent people who are going to fast talk and manipulate and maneuver and try to talk them out of their hard-earned money and sell them things that don't work and that they don't want and can't use and can't afford. Because everybody's had experiences with salespeople. But do people like consultants? Yes. Why? What is it that a consultant does? Why does a person call in a consultant in the first place? Because they have what? They have a problem. So what is a consultant, really? Yes, a consultant is a problem solver. Everybody wants to improve their lives. Everybody wants their life to be better. And the bridge between where they are and where they want to go is usually a problem, so a consultant helps them solve problems so that they can move ahead more rapidly in their lives and work. So therefore, we like consultants. Now, top salespeople see themselves as consultants. And when you think of a consultant, what words pop into mind? What's the first word that pops into mind? A consultant is an expert. Exactly. What is an expert? An expert is somebody who knows their product cold, knows it intimately. If all a top salesperson's sales brochures were destroyed, he could rewrite them all because he knows them all by heart. He knows the specifications and he knows the ins and outs and the different ways that his product or service can be used. He knows the industry that he specializes in, and he knows how it works and where its costs and revenues come from. He knows the companies that he works with, and he spends a lot of time understanding their situations. A consultant is an expert. A consultant is extremely knowledgeable in their field, and the consultant takes the time, maybe weeks and months and years, of working evenings and weekends to really, really be thoroughly knowledgeable about what he does. And you know something? Within 30 seconds of meeting a client or a customer or a prospect, the prospect knows whether he's dealing with a top salesperson or an average salesperson. Because the top salesperson is totally different from the average. The top salesperson, how does a consultant consult, by the way? Perfect.
Yes.
Asks questions. The top salesperson, the top consultant, asks very, very good questions and listens very closely to the answers and thinks and reflects the answers back and makes notes and compares the notes and the results of their conversation with the client. So the client gets the feeling that this person has the capacity to really help me do something that's important to me. Another characteristic of top consultants is they're very empathetic with their clients. They're very sensitive to their clients. They listen very, very closely to what their clients say. Another characteristic is they are advisors to their clients. They see themselves as advisors. They see themselves as counselors. They see themselves as helpers, teachers, friends. They don't see themselves as salespeople. And wonderfully enough, if you treat yourself as a consultant, you say this to your customer. You say, Mr. Customer, I don't really see myself as a salesperson. I see myself as a consultant. My reason for being here today is to ask you a few questions and see if there isn't some way that my company can help you and your company or family achieve some of your goals. But I'm really not here to sell you anything. I just want to ask you a few questions and see if I can help you. That way of approaching customers puts you in a separate category from other salespeople. And when you see yourself as a consultant, you walk and talk and act and treat yourself differently, and they treat you differently as well. They say, well, you consultants sit right here next to my desk. The salespeople sit out in the waiting room. I'll get you a cup of coffee, and we'll get them a glass of water. I'll take you out to lunch, and I'll tell him I can't see him today. Come back another time. The second self-image that top salespeople have is that they see themselves as doctors of selling. They see themselves as professionals. They have their own libraries. They study their profession thoroughly. They realize that as a top sales professional, they can make more than a doctor can make, and they can make it far faster. A doctor has to spend 10, 12, 15 years getting to the point of high income. An excellent salesperson can get there in 1 year, sometimes in 3 months. So they see themselves as professionals in terms of image, in terms of the way they dress, in terms of the way they walk and talk, in terms of their bedside manner, in terms of the way they deal with their customers. Now here's one of the characteristics of doctors. Doctors always work in a particular sequence with their patients. You can never get a doctor to move out of sequence. The sequence is always examination, diagnosis, prescription. When you go to see the doctor will take your critical details on a chart, and then we'll ask you questions, and we'll take your vital signs, and then we'll do tests, and we'll very carefully analyze you and ask you where it hurts and so on. And only then will they go on to the next phase, which is diagnosis, and then prescription. And when you get a prescription from your doctor, you accept it. Salespeople, top salespeople, do the same thing. Only in this case, it's rapport, problem, solution. They establish rapport. They identify the problem through questioning, and then they present their product or service as a solution. And they never allow the customer to say, what you got, and jump right into a presentation. That would be the same as saying, how are you, and going right into a prescription. If a doctor prescribed something without doing a thorough examination and diagnosis, it would be called malpractice. And if a salesperson does it, it's called malpractice as well. Now, the third self-image that top salespeople have is that they see themselves as presidents of their own personal sales corporations. They see themselves as presidents of a company of one. They see themselves as totally self-responsible. They see themselves as completely in charge of their own lives. They realize that anything that happens to them because of themselves. They say, if it's to be, it's up to me. If it's to be, it's up to me. I'm in charge of my own life. I'm in charge of my own career. I determine my own future destiny. No excuses, no blaming. They don't criticize and they don't badmouth. They say that I am in charge of my own life. So therefore, they go out and they look upon themselves as being fully self-responsible individuals. The minute that you begin to view yourself as self-employed, to see yourself as the boss of your own life, you move into the top 3% of people working today. And we have moved into the age where everyone must see themselves as a company of one. You must see yourself as a small business attached to a large business, selling your services to a large business. You must see yourself as totally in charge of your own life. Because remember, your employer may change over time, but you always stay the same. You are always in charge of your own life. You're always self-responsible. The mark of the truly exceptional person is that they're completely self-responsible. So these are the keys of seeing yourself as a consultant, seeing yourself as a doctor of selling, seeing yourself as the president of your own company. What this does is it makes you a powerful person. It puts you in charge of your life. It makes you powerful rather than powerless. It makes you a master of change rather than a victim of change. Because you don't allow things to happen to you, you make things happen to you. You don't hope that good things will happen. You set goals and you make plans and you get organized and you go out and you make those things happen. And the wonderful thing is this, is that people will treat you the way you treat yourself. The way you see yourself on the inside, as a consultant, as a doctor of selling, as a president of your own corporation, people will treat you that way. They will act towards you the way you act towards yourself, because people always accept us as at our own valuation. So when you meet with your customers, what you do is you say this. You say, I don't see myself as a salesperson. I see myself more as a consultant, almost like a doctor of my product or service. And my job is to talk to you and see if there isn't some way that we can help you achieve your goals, solve your problems, satisfy your needs with what we sell. So all I would like to do is ask you some questions, and then I'd like to come back to you with some recommendations on how we can help you achieve your goals faster and easier and in a cost-effective way. And when you do that with your customers, they'll say, okay, and they'll treat you totally differently. And from then on, you treat yourself the same way. You walk, talk, act, dress. The key to self-image modification is to act as if you were already the person that you want to be. Act as if you already had the qualities that you want to have. Act as if you already were a consultant, a doctor of selling, and a president of your own corporation. And then everything takes care of itself. Let me ask you a question. What is the purpose of a business?
To make money.
To make money. Make a profit. That's what almost everybody says. But do you know what the purpose of a business really is? The purpose of a business is to create and keep a customer. It's to create and keep a customer. If you create and keep sufficient number of customers in a cost-effective way, the result will be a profit. Do you know what the #1 reason for business failure is in America or any other country? It's low sales. Do you know what the #1 reason for business success is? High sales. The ability to create and keep customers is the key. And by the way, how can you tell? You find that all successful businesses, everybody thinks about creating and keeping customers. So, since you are the presidents of your own sales corporations, what is the purpose of a salesperson? What is the job of a salesperson? It is to do the same thing, isn't it? It is to create and keep customers, and your success is determined by your ability to create and keep customers. Now today, the ability to create and keep customers turns almost like a hinge on one important factor, and it's relationships. We've moved from the area of technical selling, we've moved from the area of price selling. Today, all successful selling is relationship selling. It is the ability to create and maintain high-quality relationships with customers that determines our success or failure. All top salespeople are relationship experts. They're absolutely experts at beginning long-term business relationships. You see, we can't make a living by making a single sale and never selling anything to that person again and going on and making a single sale. It's too hard. We have to think, when we deal with a customer, of dealing with that customer for the indefinite future and providing that customer with more products and services and getting resales and referrals and so on. So this is what we know, is that because of the way selling has changed in the last few years, the focus must be on the relationship. And let me give you the reason why. Original selling, there's been about 4,000 books done on selling. 99% of those books talk about the simple sale. The simple sale had a single call on a single person to make a single decision to buy a single product, and bye-bye, you never saw them again. We call this the hit-and-run sale, the touch-and-go sale. Today, however, we're into the era of complex sales. A complex sale has several calls. The average today is 4 to 6 calls is what it takes to make a sale if you are talking to the right person at the right time and you're the right person and they're qualified and you stand out from your competition and so on. Today there are multiple decision makers. You have to talk to several people, and sometimes you never even get to talk to the person who signs the check. Third of all, the sale has the potential of going on and on and on after the sale. And fourth of all, 95% of the sale takes place when you're not there. You can go in and you can influence certain people and provide certain information, and then you have to go away, and while you're gone, the sale is going on, and you can't influence it. All of this requires a greater focus on relationships. Here's the most important part. In the old days, in old school selling, when you made a sale, it was over. You took the sales slip, you threw them over your shoulder, and you went on to the next customer. Today, however, the sale goes on, and it actually intensifies after the sale. In the customer's mind, the sale only begins when they sign the check. In the old days, the salesperson, as far as they were concerned, the sale was over when the check was signed. No, today it only begins. So when a customer buys today in a long-term sales relationship, the customer is really entering into a business marriage with you and your company. The customer is really entering into a long-term relationship with you. And when it comes time to making the buying decision, the customer has to decide, do I want to be in a long-term relationship with you? Do I want to entrust my future to you? You see, before the customer buys, the customer can do whatever they want. The money is in the customer's bank account and the product or service is in your facility. But once the customer gives you the money, suddenly they're dependent on you. You see, what you do is you sell dreams in exchange for money. You sell promises in exchange for money. You say, give me the money and I'll give you a promise. And the promise is of fulfillment of your product or service. It'll work. It's the quality that I say it is. Our service is what I say it is. Our delivery is what I say it is. The price is fair and so on. But these are all promises. How does the customer know that they're true? And the customer has to decide, do I want to be in a long-term relationship with you? The greatest single obstacle to buying today is fear on the part of the customer. The customer is afraid of making a mistake. In fact, if a customer is afraid of making a mistake, it's like they have a spear in their stomach. They back away, and they back away from the decision. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever bought something and found out later that you paid too much for it?
Yes.
Have you ever bought something that broke down after you got it at home? You couldn't get it fixed?
Yeah.
Have you ever bought something that was the wrong thing and it didn't work?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Have you ever bought something and been so angry afterwards you wish you had never bought it in the first place because of all the trouble you had with it? Do you know that when you call on a prospect, the prospect sees you and they say, aha, because that prospect has had 100, 1,000 experiences just like that. And they have a conditioned, visceral response. And they respond with fear, resistance, distrust, suspicion, hostility, and so on, because they see you as coming to do the same thing to them that's been done to them so many times since they bought their first cap gun at the store and it broke when they got home. This fear is the biggest single obstacle that we have to overcome. 80% of the reason why people don't buy is because they're afraid of making a mistake. Now, in modern selling today, because products and services are so complex, because the customer can't evaluate what is in your product or service, the customer has to hang their hook onto something, and it has to be their relationship with you. It has to be their feeling about you. There has to be their credibility about you. And the critical factor in modern selling is risk. And every good salesperson does everything they possibly can to lower the perception of risk. And everything that you do with a customer affects this perception of risk in some way. So therefore, the very best salespeople sell and position themselves as the lowest risk providers of their product or service, not the lowest price. You see, nobody succeeds simply by fighting on the basis of price. But you can succeed by assuring the customer that your product represents the lowest risk, the best deal, the best choice, the overall preferred solution for his or her problem, all things being equal. And if you put your relationship as the catalytic agent in it, in the final analysis, all sales are made on the basis of relationships. In fact, if a person doesn't buy from you, they say, I just don't want a long-term relationship with you. Or if they buy from your competitor, they say, I'd much prefer to have a relationship with him or her, and price is very seldom, if ever, the issue. So we say, how do you lower this concern about risk? How do you alleviate these fears? And we have the answer. I call it the new model of selling. Now, the new model of selling is different or contrasted with the old model of selling. The old model of selling is what 99% of the books are written on. The old model of selling was based on a simple sale, a single call, single decision. Hit and run, touch and go, get the check, never see the person again. The old model of selling is very much like a triangle, divided into 4 equal parts in terms of levels like 4 floors of a building. The first part represented 10% of the sale. That was establishing rapport. Hi, how are you? How you doing? How's the wife and kids? Get right down to the purpose of your business. There's still people who teach this. These are Neanderthal salespeople and sales trainers, because it doesn't work anymore, because rapport is so important in a sale. Second of all is qualifying. Find out if they got the money before you waste any time with them. Third part was presenting. That's how you talked them out of the money that you had determined that they had. And this fourth part, 40% of the sale, 10%, 20%, 30%, 40% of the sale was closing. And we were told, and this will come as a shock to you, that buyers are liars, so close them early and often. The fact is that this is old school selling. It's hit and run selling. It's used car selling. It doesn't work today. Today we use the new model, and the new model is that same triangle, but it's flipped over and it's an upside down model. And the first part of the new model of selling, fully 40% of the sale, is building trust. Building trust is the element that holds and that makes relationships work. Trust is the glue that makes our relationships with every single person in our life that's important to us work. And so therefore, trust, being a very fragile thing, is something that you have to be sensitive to throughout everything that you do with the customer. But trust is the critical factor. It's 40% of all of our relationships, and especially our relationships with our customers. The second part of the sale, 30%, the next level of the triangle, upside down, is identifying needs or problems. And here's the wonderful thing. When you talk to a customer about his or her needs or problems or concerns, and then listen to the answers, the customer trusts you more. And the more you ask questions and listen to the answers, the more the customer trusts you. And the more they trust you, the more they tell you. And the more they tell you and the more you listen and take notes, the more they trust you. And eventually, you can listen your way into a sale by listening so intensely that the customer will eventually tell you everything that you need to know to help them make a good buying decision. The third part of the upside-down triangle, the new model of selling, is 20% of the sale, and it's presenting. Now, presenting is different from the old model. Presenting in the old model is where you try to talk them out of the money. In the new model, you simply show them how your product or service is the ideal solution to their problem. It satisfies their needs better. It's most effective. It is really what they need, and you sort of tie and match their needs to your product features and benefits skillfully. That's the key to the very best sales activities. The last part, the last 10%, is confirming. It's closing. It's getting feedback from the customer. It's assuring that the customer understands what you told them. When you follow with the new model, building trust by identifying needs and then presenting your product or service as a solution to their problem and then assuring that they understand and agree with you, the sales almost take care of themselves. Now here's the rule. The rule is that listening builds trust. Listening builds trust. We all trust and like the people who listen to us the most in our personal and our business lives. There's 4 keys to excellent listening. Key number 1 is to listen attentively. Listen closely. Listen without interrupting. Lean forward. Nod. Be an active listener. Be a reflective listener. Be a responsive listener, but be totally involved. Most people, when they listen, are like boxers, just waiting for a chance to get in another punch. They're waiting for the other person to take a breath so they can jump in with what they have to say. Do you know that the #1 complaint of purchasing managers in America, year after year after year, about salespeople is that they talk too much? And the #1 thing that customers like about salespeople is that they listen well and they listen intently to their problems. #2 is pause before replying. Don't jump in, pause, wait, reflect, think before responding when the customer is talking. That shows the customer that you're really paying attention and thinking about what they said. #3 is question for clarification. Don't assume that you understand what the customer is saying, so always ask this question. My favorite question in selling is, how do you mean? How do you mean exactly? How do you mean? I don't like it, I can't afford it, don't want it, we're happy with our existing supplier, we don't have the money, it's not in the budget. Well, how do you mean exactly? In other words, always ask, how do you mean? Ask them to expand it. And the 4th part of listening is to feed it back in your own words. Paraphrase it. Say, let me make sure I understand what you're saying. And then feed it back and say it in your own words until the person says, yes, that's it, that's my situation, you've got it. Only then, and only then, 70% of the way through the new model, can you begin talking about your product or service. In fact, we suggest in selling that you go in with nothing, no briefcase, no nothing, and simply concentrate in the first meeting on building trust and identifying needs clearly, and then come back later to do the presentations. There are 2 or 3 parts to differentiating yourself from your competitors based on relationships and the trust factor. The most important differentiator, the most important thing that separates you from all other salespeople of similar products and services is the trust bond that binds you and the customer together. You will find that the people that you buy from the most regularly are the ones who trust you the most. The ones that you sell to the most readily are the ones who trust you the most as well. You will find, by the way, that with your best customers, they'll even buy from you without asking the price. Why? It's because they completely trust you, that the price will be fair, the price will be reasonable, the price will be what it is. The very best salespeople, by the way, are very often not asked the price at all in a sales presentation because the customer trusts them so much that they know the price is what the price is. The key to success in business today, the key to success in selling, is the friendship factor. The key to success in life is the friendship factor. You'll find that the most successful men and women in every single field, including selling, are the ones who have conscientiously and systematically over the course of their lives and careers built up the greatest network of friendly relationships. If you think of your very best customer or your very best customers, the one thing that will come into your mind is that this is a person who is your friend. This is a person you like. This is a person who likes you. This is a person that when you call them, they take your call. And when you arrange to see them, they're eager to see you. And when they call you, you call them back immediately because of the level of friendship. And the 3 elements in friendship are time, caring, and respect. Time is the fertilizer that builds healthy relationships. Relationships require time, and the value of a customer relationship to you is determined by the amount of time that you invest with that customer. Caring is the emotional element. A person cannot buy from you until they feel that you actually care about them and their situation. And so taking the time to ask questions and to listen convinces them that you really do care. And everything that you can do to illustrate this will help you. And the 3rd part is respect. Respecting people supports their self-esteem. People need to be respected by other people. They need to be liked by other people. So if you put relationships at the core of your selling and accept the law of indirect effort, which says that if you focus all of your efforts on building and maintaining high-quality relationships, then the sales will come to you like a river. that you'll never be out of customers, and you'll never be out of resales, and you'll never be out of referrals. Concentrate on the customer, concentrate on the relationship, and the sale will take care of itself. Question: what is the critical determinant of buying behavior? What is the critical factor that determines how much customers buy from you and whether they continue to buy from you and whether they buy from you rather than someone else? And the answer to that, too tough a question, the answer to that is perception. The customer has a mind full of files, and in every file there's information on every person, thing, situation that the customer knows or ever experiences. And when a customer meets you for the first time, they open a file on you, and into that file goes information. This information forms the customer's perception. And from then on, this is how you are positioned in the customer's mind. Every single company, individual, every single product or service has a certain position in the minds of its customers and non-customers. Positioning is the most important single thing that we do in affecting and influencing our positioning in the mind and heart of the customer is the critical factor that determines our success. Positioning has been defined as the way the customer thinks about you when you're not there, the way the customer feels about you, the way the customer talks about you. If you think of the very best and most successful companies, you'll think of companies that when you think of them immediately, you have respect, esteem, regard, you feel good about them, they have a quality image, and so on. Now here's the critical factor, is the perception that your customers have of you must be one of believability, credibility, honesty, trust, quality, value, service, and so on. And every single interaction with your customers, one way or another, influences this perception. You know, there's three types of people in the world. You've heard it say. There's people who make things happen, there's people who watch what's happening, there's people who say, well, what happened? And the great majority of people don't realize that if you are not consciously affecting perceptions, they're being affected anyway. So it's a matter of doing it consciously or unconsciously and realizing that every single thing you do is shaping the perception that the customer has of you. And the bigger and more important the sale, the more various ingredients go into making up this perception that the customer has. By the way, we have found that in interviewing thousands of customers, if you ask the customers to give you back a single word to describe top salespeople, you buy from this person, you've bought from this person for several years, can you describe him or her in a single word? Do you know what the #1 word that comes back when describing the top salespeople in every industry? It's the word nice. The perception is that this is a nice person. When they ask the person, what do you mean by nice? They say positive, cheerful, easy to get along with, friendly, trustworthy. I like him or her. I feel good about him or her. He or she is a nice person. That's the critical perception. And everything that you do adds to or takes away from that. You know, you could be a fabulous human being with your customer for years and years and years, and just walk in once and be angry and be irritable and be aggravating and be insulting, and what would happen?
That's it.
That's it. It's over. You would destroy the perception that the customer has of you. So here's one of the great laws of life, and then we'll get into some of the things that you can do to raise credibility. The great law of life is the law of accumulation. It says that everything in life that's big and worthwhile is an accumulation of hundreds and thousands of little things that very often people never see or appreciate. Every great life or career is an accumulation of hundreds and thousands of efforts, of hard work and long hours that a person has put in above and beyond what anybody else has put in, that accumulates eventually to a great life. And the corollary of the law of accumulation is that everything counts. Everything counts. Everything counts. Everything you do counts. Everything adds up or takes away. Everything helps or hurts. Nothing is neutral. Superior men and women are those who never dismiss things by saying it doesn't matter. Superior men and women are those who realize that everything is in the details. And they're meticulous about everything they do. They never try to wing it when they go to see a customer. They plan thoroughly. They review all of their information. They do their homework. And you know something? The customer knows it instantly. The customer gets an instant feel when the person walks in and starts talking and asking questions that this person recognizes that everything counts. Everything counts. And in building credibility, in influencing perceptions, in influencing your positioning in the customer's mind, everything that you do helps or hurts. Nothing is neutral. So let's talk about some of the things that we can do. Of course, we know that you have a wonderful personality and that you're warm and kind and loving and patient and trustworthy and brave and clean and reverent, like the Boy Scout creed. We know that you couldn't even get to first base unless you had the type of attitude and personality that people find likable and enjoyable. But now there's a whole series of subtle factors that can make or break the sale in every case. The first has to do with you, the salesperson, right at the beginning. Credibility with regard to the salesperson is based on three things. It's based on dress, it's based on grooming, and it's based on accessories. Now, the rule in selling, and many salespeople violate this, is that you must dress for success. You must get at least 1 or 2 books on proper business dress, and you must devour them from cover to cover, and you must go through your wardrobe and throw out everything that is not approved of in those books, and that you must dress exactly the way the finest professional consultants, doctors, presidents of their own sales companies would dress. In other words, dress is so important that according to the statistics, 95% of the first impression that you make on a customer is determined by your dress. Why? It's because your clothes cover 95% of your body in most cases. We also know that the customer makes their first impression of you in 4 seconds. Customers go blink, blink, and they've made their decision on you. After that, they may talk to you and they may be polite and so on, but in 4 seconds, the customer's mind is like quick-drying cement. Personnel officers who interview and hire for large corporations say they usually made the hiring decision within 30 seconds of meeting the person for the first time, and that's without reading the resume. And people don't realize that they'll walk in, they'll stand up, and they'll say hello, and they're dead in the water already because of the egregious errors that they've made in dress. The second part is grooming. The way you are groomed in every aspect is something that stands out. And if customers are not comfortable with the way you're dressed or the way you're groomed, they won't buy from you. The third part is your accessories. Accessories are very, very important because customers are looking for it. Now, here's a great rule, is that if a customer's attention is drawn to your accessories, then the accessories are wrong. The customer should have a single impression of you as being a well put together, conservative, reliable, dependable, authoritative professional in your industry. They should not be able to say, well, he or she was wearing this or that or something else. But here's an important point. Most sales are made on the margin. What does that mean? It means that, let's say it takes 100 points of credibility to make a sale. Many sales are made when you have 101 points. Not 200 or 500, 101, 102. So it's very marginal. Let's say that you've just got to the point where the customer is ready to make a sale, and you say, if you'll just authorize this, we can get started right away. And you reach into your pocket, and instead of a cross pen or a Mont Blanc, you pull out a Bic with a chewed-off end. Now, a Bic pen is a cheap pen. We call this a canary pen. Cheap, 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 cheap. And when you take out a cheap pen and you hand it to the prospect to sign, the prospect thinks cheap, 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 cheap person, cheap company, cheap product, danger, danger, too dangerous to make a bind. You say, let me think about it, leave it with me, I'll talk to you later, I'll call you back at another time. Very easy to destroy a sale. Scuffy shoes, by the way, in males will destroy a sale. 84% of business people interviewed would not buy from a person who had unpolished shoes. And people say, well, it doesn't matter, but everything counts. Everything counts. Everything counts. The second area of credibility is the company. The company, by the way, and the company's reputation is a major determinant and a major reason why people buy in every study. Why? It's because if the company has a great reputation, then it's safe to buy from this company. If the company has a great reputation, then the feeling of risk, the perception of risk will drop, and the feeling of confidence will rise. So therefore, if your company has good things to say about it, don't assume that they already know. There are 3 areas, by the way, with regard to your company, and they are the size of the company, how long it's been in business, and its market share with regard to the product or service that you're selling. So therefore, one of the great questions is, Mr. Prospect, before I begin, do you know very much about my company? And almost every prospect will say, oh, no, I don't know very much about your company. And I had this done to me by professional salespeople. It's very impressive. They say, well, let me tell you 3 things about which we're very proud. First of all, we have been in business for 23 years. Second of all, we are the largest firm of our kind within this market area. And third of all, we have 43% of the market for our services, and that comes mostly from repeat customers because they're so satisfied with what we've done in the past. Wow, I had no idea your company was that good. I'm almost ready to buy. All you have to do is show me that what you sell is what I need, and I'm ready to make a decision. You see, reputation and telling them how good you are is very important. If you're good, tell them. If you're small, say we're small, so we're very flexible and we move fast for our clients. We're big and we've grown large in a competitive market because we satisfy our clients. Tell them good things. The second part is your brochures and your handouts and your price list, the paper that you use in your business. Let me ask you a question. Who determines the standard for your materials? Your competitors do, because yours have to be equal to or better than your competitors. But whatever you do, whenever you hand out materials, don't hand out used materials, folded materials, materials with coffee stains on them, materials with other people's phone numbers in the margins. Make sure that your materials are beautiful, because people equate the whole company to the kind of materials that you put out about your products and services. And the third part is your telephone manners. Make sure that the people who answer your telephones are absolutely wonderful on the phone, and make sure that you are good on the phone as well. Have people listen to you and give you feedback. Do you know that 99% of your customers' contact with you will be telephone? And so therefore, the very best companies are the most fastidious about the people who answer the telephones. They give everybody training in how to answer the telephones. Very important, because a poor or rude or peremptory or unhelpful person on the telephone will kill the sale just like that. They'll assume the whole company is no darn good. Very important. Now, the second area of credibility has to do with your satisfied customers. The more satisfied customers you have, the easier it is to make further sales to more customers. It raises your credibility very high, because 84% of all sales in America are made by word of mouth, by people saying, I used it and I liked it. So therefore, there's 3 keys to satisfied customers. First of all, is similar others. In other words, people similar to the prospect that have bought and used your product or service are powerful, powerful referrals to use. We always are attracted to buy a product that someone like us in our business has already bought. Second of all, always be willing to answer the question, who else has done it? Customers will not ask you about it, but they want to know who else has done it. Who else other than me? How do I know it's safe to go ahead? Come on, who else has done this already and is happy? And the way that you demonstrate who else has done it and is happy is with testimonial letters and testimonial lists of your customers and testimonial photographs showing your product in service with a satisfied customer. Testimonials are so powerful in building credibility that we say that salespeople who don't use testimonials have skinny kids. Very important. The next part of credibility is the product or service itself. There's nothing that builds greater credibility in a product or service than it is exactly what the customer needs. And you can demonstrate, Mr. Customer, this is exactly what you need to solve exactly the problem you have at exactly this time in a cost-effective way. That can overwhelm all the other negatives that may exist, small business, inexperience, and so on, having the right product. It provides the benefits that the customer is seeking. The value outweighs the price, and the customer is clear that what they get is bigger than what they pay. By the way, major reason why people don't buy is they think that what they're paying is more than what they're getting. Your job is to show them that what they're getting is more than what they're paying. And the third part is the guarantees and assurances and warranties that you give that he or she will be happy. The next area of credibility has to do with the sales presentation. A really good sales presentation has 4 elements. First of all, it's customer-focused rather than company and product-focused, and it's problem-centered. It revolves around the problem, situation, needs of the customer continually. Second of all, you match your products or services to the customer's needs very skillfully. You show that there's a perfect fit, like a hand in a glove, between what you sell and what they need as a result of your discussion. Third of all, there's a focus on the relationship throughout. It's absolutely clear to the customer that you care about the relationship, that you care about him or her. The relationship is more important to you than a quick sale. And the fourth is that there is acceptance of 100% responsibility by you, the salesperson. One of the greatest sentences that you can say is, Mr. Prospect, when you deal with me, you don't have to worry about a thing because I'll take care of all the details. I'll take care of all the details. Customers want a hassle-free purchase. They want to know that if they buy from you, they won't ever have to worry about it again. Now, Here's the great rule with regard to selling. The great rule is that credibility gets you a hearing. You can't even get an appointment with a busy customer unless you have a certain level of credibility, unless you're good on the phone, unless your company is known, unless you prospect well. But it is maximum credibility, mega credibility, that gets you a sale. So remember, getting in the door and finding a qualified prospect is only the first step. It's the kickoff in the game. If you want to move the ball down the field, then what you have to do is very subtly shape and build and develop credibility so that the customer comes to the conclusion in their own mind that this is the best and the safest and the lowest risk and the highest value company to deal with. And with regard to credibility, remember the law of accumulation. Everything counts. Everything counts. Everything counts. Everything counts. I started selling as a young man, and I spun my wheels for months and months and months. And I read books, and I listened to tapes, and I got advice from people. And almost all of that advice was technical advice. Say this, do that, move your body here, and so on. And as I began studying success more thoroughly, I learned that 80% of all sales success is psychological. 80% of sales success is what is going on in your mind rather than in particular skills. And they've done all kinds of independent research where they'll take people and they'll train them thoroughly and put them into the field after 2 or 3 months of training. And they'll take another group and they will give them no training at all and put them into the field. And 3 months later, they'll find that the sales from both groups are identical and that the top 20% of each group is accounting for 80% of the sales. So when I learned that it was psychological, I realized that the starting point in bringing about rapid improvements in our sales performance is to change our attitude and personality. And if you have the right attitude and personality, everything is possible for you. Attitude and personality means that your attitude is generally positive. There's a one-to-one association between a positive mental attitude and sales success. And in terms of your personality, it means that you feel good about yourself. We know that self-image, how you see yourself and think about yourself, and self-esteem, which is how much you like yourself and respect yourself, and your overall self-concept, your general attitude towards yourself and life, will more determine your success and happiness than anything else. The turning point in my life came when I realized that the key to success is to learn from other people who've been successful before you. It's to take the law of cause and effect and put it into your life. It's to learn from the experts and find out what causes they put in to get the effects that they got. Now, this is so astonishing. The law of cause and effect was first articulated by Socrates in 410 BC. And of course, you know what they did to Socrates. Because at that time it was considered to be a terrible law, because up to that time everybody thought that things happened by accident, that it was fate, it was the gods playing on Mount Olympus, it was Zeus throwing lightning bolts and so on. And Socrates said no, he said everything happens for a reason, and that every effect that you see is caused by certain things. And just because you don't know the causes or have not discovered the causes yet does not mean that there aren't causes. The entire history of the development of mankind has been the discovery of the causes of the effects that we wanted to either have more of or the effects that we wanted to have less of, whether it's technology or illness or something else. What I found was that if you do exactly what the very best people do, you get the same results that the very best people get. And if you do it over and over again, it's like a combination lock. If I give you the numbers to a combination lock and I give them to you in order, you can open the combination lock, and I would give it to you, you can open it, I would give it to you, you can open it. What we found is that if you give people the right steps and they do the right things and the same things that other top people have done, they get the same results. Now, here's an important point. People who are not at the top of their sales force sometimes doubtful or question what I'm saying. However, every single person who is at the top of their sales force now was once at the bottom. Every single person who is first was once last. Every single person who is doing extremely well today was once doing very poorly, and sometimes doing poorly for a long time. So what we've done is we've taken the 10 qualities or characteristics that you can use every single day. They're attitudinal qualities and characteristics that if you incorporate them into your personality and your temperament, you'll start to get results out of all proportion to the efforts that you put in. The first of these, number one, there's 10. Number one is get serious. Get serious is so important. I've spoken to so many men and women who have worked for a long time and suddenly their lives take off. Their businesses grow, their sales grow, their income grows. And I say, well, what was the turning point for you? In every case, they say, well, I finally decided to get serious. I finally decided to quit fooling around. I realized I've been just sort of dabbling in my job for years. I've been looking upon it as an occupation, 9 to 5, go home and watch television. I finally decided to get serious. In fact, psychologists say that every change in our life begins with what is called a significant emotional experience, an SEE, significant emotional experience. Something happens and we either get motivated or inspired, or we get angry, or we get scared, and from that point it's like we turn the course or turn the wheel in our life and we go down a different road. So the starting point of great sales success is to get serious, is to make the decision, I'm going to go all the way to the top. If I'm going to be in this field for 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, I am going to be in the top 10%. I'm going to be the best in my field. I'm going to be recognized by everyone around me as one of the top people in my profession. And when you make that decision, the most remarkable thing happens. You'll find that there's no barriers. There was nobody holding you in your place. It's not youth or age or color or race or ethnicity or education, because there are people with every single limitation that you and I could ever dream of having in the whole world, and they have become great successes as well. Once you realize that, it's almost like you're in prison and you push against the wall and it just evaporates. There's no wall there. There's nothing that stops you from getting to the top of your field except the decision to do so. I've worked with thousands of salespeople, and every top salesperson got to the top after they decided that, by gum, they were going to do it. Not until. It doesn't happen automatically. The second key principle for success is to lead the action. See yourself as a role model. One of the things we know is that leaders in all areas place very high standards of performance and behavior on themselves. And in the final analysis, nobody's going to do it for you. But what they do is they act as though everyone was watching them. They act as though they're setting the standard for their coworkers and their peers, their children and their friends. Even when no one is there, they set very high standards. They drive around all day as if their sales manager is sitting right in the seat next to them, filling out a clipboard and evaluating and appraising them for the coming year. Top people, when they're alone, act as if they were going to be the subject of a national documentary, to be seen by 50 million people, and it's going to be on the absolutely quintessential, outstanding salesperson in America, and all around them there are people with cameras following them every minute of the day, and they walk, talk, and act exactly as if that were happening, even when no one's there. When you do that, by the way, it raises your self-esteem, it improves your attitude, it gives you more energy and dynamism, it raises your own sense of personal efficacy. When you set high standards for yourself, you feel much better about yourself, and you perform better, and people respond to you better. The third key to outstanding success is to identify your limiting step. You see, between where you are and where you want to go, there's always something like a roadblock or a construction zone that determines how fast you get there. This is called your choke point, or your limiting step, or your bottleneck. You have to say, between where you are and where you want to go, which is great sales success, to earn far more money, to be far more successful, what is setting the speed at which you get from where you are to where you want to go? What determines how quickly you achieve it? What's holding you back? Now, there's two types of limiting steps, or what we call blocks. They are internal blocks and external blocks. There are things inside ourselves and things outside ourselves. The superior person always says, what is it in me? What skill, ability, talent do I have to develop? What skill area in my work? Is it prospecting? Is it telephone skills? Is it presenting? Is it getting past the gatekeeper? Is it getting the customer to take action? Is it selling against competition? What skill area is causing me to fall down in my sales? If I could bring that up, it'd make a real difference. Because here's what we found. You can be good in every skill area in your business except one, and that one will set the height at which you use all your other talents. Your weakest important skill is the brake on everything you accomplish in your life. So what you do in this, and this is, by the way, it's so important that if you only learn this one thing, you must learn this, is go to your boss, go to your coworkers, go to your spouse, go to your friends, and ask them if they see anything in you. Go to your customers and ask them, is there anything that I'm doing or not doing that may be holding me back in sales success? And you know what? They'll tell you. And when they tell you, sometimes they'll give you an insight that will enable you to bring your skill level up and so dramatically increase your results as to be unbelievable. Now, the fourth is to get around the right people. Getting around the right people, again, is a critical determinant of success. Dr. David McClellan at Harvard determined that 90% or more of your success in life can be determined by the people you associate with on a regular basis. That all really successful people associate with other positive, optimistic people. And unsuccessful people focus or associate with negative people, pessimistic people, cynical, depressed people. So the rule is, if you want to fly with the eagles, stop scratching with the turkeys. If you want to achieve great things, start getting around people who are happy and positive, who have goals and objectives and are trying to do something with their lives, and get away from negative people. Get away. We call these toxic people. What these people do is they drag you down, they depress you. There's an old saying about negative people. They say, never wrestle with a pig, because you both get dirty, but the pig likes it. When you associate with negative people, you both become depressed, but the other person likes being depressed. That's their normal state of life. And you see them coming, turn around and get out of there. Do you know that all top people are described by their colleagues as loners? Not aloners, but they're loners because they just don't associate with everybody. They only associate with the positive people. Number 5, take excellent care of your physical health. Eat the right foods, exercise, get lots of sleep. If you're going to sell every day, go to bed early, the nights before you sell. Because energy and dynamism are what sells. You cannot sell, you cannot even perform well if you're tired. So you've got to be fresh and alert, which means to eat well, get lots of exercise, get lots of rest and recreation. Positive energy is a source of enthusiasm, confidence, and personal power. And if you want to have that kind of magnetic animal magnetism that attracts people and makes people want to be around you, you've got to be well rested and you've got to be healthy. Number 6, dedicate yourself to continuous personal and professional development. There is nothing that causes you to be more motivated than a feeling that you're growing every day toward becoming more and more of what you're capable of becoming. Study after study shows that if you're not growing, you're stagnating. Is it people who are negative and depressed and have low self-esteem, or people who have sort of plateaued out in life? The people who are growing and learning and trying new things are people who are more excited and they're more positive. Here's the 3 keys. Listen to audio cassettes in your car. The average person spends 500 to 1,000 hours a year in their car. Turn your car into a learning machine and listen to audio cassettes as you all do. Second of all, of course, watch video cassettes as well, like this. Second of all, read on a regular basis. Read an hour a day in selling. Put your newspaper away, turn the television off, just read an hour a day in selling, and you'll become one of the highest paid and most successful salespeople of your generation. And the third, of course, is to take all the training you can get. Remember, you can never be so smart that you know everything there is to know. And one good idea in one training program may save you a year or 2 years of hard work. I've met people who, after they've been through one day with me in a sales training program, have increased their income 400% between then and the end of the year. They have saved themselves years of hard work just by learning some very specific things that perhaps they weren't doing. The 7th is positive visualization. See yourself as the very best in your field. See yourself as an outstanding person. Remember, you always act on the outside the way you see yourself on the inside. So imagine that you already were the kind of person that you want to be. And then walk and talk and act exactly as if you were an outstanding sales star, an outstanding performer. Number 8 is positive self-talk. Talk to yourself in a positive way. You know that 95% of the way you feel about yourself, your emotional content, is determined by your inner dialogue, by the words going through your mind. So say things like, I like myself. I like myself. I feel terrific. I feel terrific. How's it going? Wonderful. How's life? Fabulous. How's the family? Terrific. How's sales? Couldn't be better. In other words, be optimistic. What if they're not? Well, they will be soon enough, right? Say things like, I love my work. I love my work. Ever start to feel a little bit negative about selling, which we all do, start saying, I like myself and I love my work. I like myself and I love my work. Say things like, I'm the best. I'm the best. I'm the best. I'm the best. Drive it into your mind. I'm the best. I'm the best. Be your own cheerleader. Talk to yourself in positive ways. You know what? You start to feel like that. Someone says, well, what if you're not the best? Isn't that lying to yourself? No, that's not lying to yourself. That's telling the truth in advance. Number 9 is positive expectations. Positive expectations means to always expect the best in every situation. Always look for the good. Napoleon Hill's classical 20-year study of success said the most important attitude he found that successful people had is they always looked into everything that happened for something good and beneficial. In every setback or difficulty or temporary defeat, he said there was the seed of an equal or greater opportunity or benefit. And successful people always look into what happens to them for what's good about it. Now here's two great questions in terms of positive expectations. Question number one is after every sale, just ask yourself, what did I do right? And second of all, what would I do differently? What did I do right? And think about what you did right. And what would I do differently? How could I improve it next time? And surprise, surprise, next time you'll start to do it better and better. And number 10 is positive action. Positive action means get going, get busy, take action, do something. Everything that we ever learn is merely a prelude to action. And the more action you take, the faster you move, the more ground you cover, the more energy you have. The faster you move, the more positive you are. The faster you move, the more people you see. The faster you move, the more you learn. The faster you move, the more successful you are. You don't find any successful slow people. All successful people are fast-moving. In fact, a sense of urgency is sometimes the critical quality that can make all the difference in your success. If you see a good thing to do, or you hear of an opportunity, or you hear of a referral or a customer or something, move quickly, move now, go, go, go. And after everything, underneath everything, put the foundation of persistence. And whatever you do for the rest of your career, take all of these things, and once you begin, never give up. Never, never give up. Thank you.